Oh, perfect. Sorry, Jen. Thanks for everyone attending tonight's Community Preservation Committee meeting. It's July 21st, 2021, and it's now 7:03. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations to the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Community Preservation Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for the remote participation by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the Town of Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner: by finding the meeting at https://www.southborough.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance for members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technology means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So with that said, we do have a quorum. Thank you, everyone. Called the meeting to order. First order of business is minutes. Do we have minutes?
Yes. Yeah, I sent them out like 2 days after the last meeting. They're
Oh,
from
yeah. Okay.
June 16th, I believe.
Sounds good. Is there a motion for the minutes?
If I read them.
Do we want to?
I wasn't at the meeting, so I couldn't attest to them.
Okay, David.
Mark?
I probably read it so long ago that I forgot about it, but I probably would have emailed Betsy if I had any issues with it. So I'm probably good.
Okay.
You looking at them?
I am. I got the two computers going here.
Jen, do you remember?
I'm probably in the same boat as Annie, to be honest. I was just looking to see if I could find the link.
All right, well, we can come back to that.
Yeah.
I think we
So
should.
in the meantime, because I think the MOU piece that requires emails too. The discussion about let's jump to the raising the surcharge of 1%. I put this on. I teed it up kind of last time because the head of the advisory committee kept asking me, when are you guys going to raise the surcharge? And you can do more. And I thought it would be good to discuss to see how that would be done. And there would be no better person to tell us how the surcharge even got put in place to begin with would be Ms. Gillespie, because she was part of the ground roots effort to create the CPC. While I'm the longest sitting member on the CPC now, Freddie was definitely a part of the founding. She's a founding CPC member. So with that said, Freddie, if you're comfortable, can you tell us a little bit about how it got done to begin with and what you know about if we're gonna, how the town would go about raising the surcharge above 1%?
Oh, thank you. And just because some of you may not know the history, in the early 2000s, the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, was Bob Durand, and he created a Community Preservation Institute. And I was asked to attend. I went to 12 weeks of classes and we did major projects together. It was a pretty select group from people around the state they thought could maybe make a difference. So I had that background. I actually, after that, I was asked by the Community Preservation Coalition to present at some of their conferences. So I was pretty well versed in all the aspects of CPA and the really bought into the full picture of affordable housing. I mean, not affordable, sorry, community housing, open space, and historic preservation. That was before recreation was a part of it. So I thought it'd be a good idea to get it passed in Southborough. And what I found out is I found a few other people who were interested, Mimi Luttrell, I just went blank, Lori Borden and Jerry, and he's moved out of town. I forget his name, but he'd been involved in the first one. I found out there had been a prior attempt where people had brought it to town meeting approved moving forward with it, but it had to go to the ballot box. So a question was put on the ballot, but I guess my understanding, and I wasn't involved, nobody did any outreach, so it failed at the ballot. And I think that might have been at 2 or 3%. So I came in as the, eager to let's get this done. And people actually laughed at us. And it was actually the height of a tough economic times back when we tried. And what we found out is we had to go through a citizen's petition. There's requirements in the bylaw on how much time between you pass it at town meeting and you have to vote on it. And we didn't have the right amount of time. So even if they had passed it the last time, it wouldn't have been legit because nobody looked at that. So we had looked at that. We had to create a ballot question committee. And that was pretty intense. And one of the things we laughed later, if we knew what we were getting into, it was one of those things we never would have done. So we had to collect signatures on something like 10% of the registered voters. And back then you had to collect like a lot more because our town clerk, if he couldn't read it, he threw them out. And we were collecting signatures at the transfer station for a long time in February. And the benefit of that was everyone we talked to, we could communicate with about the benefit of it. So there was a downside and an upside. So we got it on the ballot, but one of the things that happened was the other people on my committee, I wanted 3% because you get a bigger state match percentage. And my other members said, no, it would never pass town meeting. And I always regretted caving in, but maybe they were right. Not town meeting, wouldn't pass at the ballot box because I don't even think it was that close count. I mean, we didn't win extraordinarily, but we reached out to all of the groups that would be involved: Historical Commission, Open Space, Affordable, and Affordable Housing. We didn't have a housing trust then, but we had the Housing Authority and Shopsy and the housing. Anyhow, so we got it passed, I guess but we did it. I'm telling you, we did a ton of outreach. We had lawn signs. It was cute. It said CPA makes sense for Southborough. And we had the cent sign. So it was money, but we were talking about it makes sense. So we thought that was pretty good. The Southborough Open Land Foundation helped. So it was a real grassroots and lots of people involved. And then after we passed it, we formed they started collecting money that year, but then we had to wait to the next town meeting to appoint the CPC. So money was collecting. And then once the CPC was formed, they had to take a year. We had to take a year of creating a plan and go to the next town meeting before we could spend any of the money. So money was collecting for 2 years. We also, we were at 100% of a state match at that time. So the first warrant article out, we spent all the money for the Chestnut Hill Farm bond. So I'm just saying that we have been here before. Back to how to get it passed again. I just checked with Stuart to double check. You you can go to town meeting because we already have it. I guess I gave you a longer story than you needed, but I think it's important to know the background. You can go to town meeting and offer to change the amount. But what happens is if you put it on town meeting floor, it's open for amendments and someone could vote to lower it. Or they could vote to, I don't know that you can vote to zero it out because that would be like, but you could make it 0.5%, 0.5%. And the town would still be responsible for all of the bonding we have. So it's not that likely to happen, but somebody needs to champion it. And someone needs to champion it, and you want to get a lot of buy-in. And when I say it took us, I think it's, it sucked a lot of our lives out, time out of it. It's not a simple thing, I think, to get people to want to do it. And we keep hearing people complaining about getting rid of the CPA, not a large amount of people. So you have some, I would say you have some challenges.
Yeah. So
You
Fraser,
could do a
what do you know
citizens
about,
petition. You
sorry?
could do a citizens petition, which means citizens put it on the floor. Nobody can amend it except for the people who put it. They have to go out and collect signatures. But anyhow,
What do you know about other communities who have raised it or have any, how they've done it?
I
Or-
don't know of any others that have. I can check. I didn't think to ask. I do know Stuart wasn't the executive director of the coalition when I first started. And I remember before him hearing about someone who went to raise it and got sort of shocked by having town meeting floor lower it.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that's a possibility. And the question is it a CPC decision or is it some other group who's going to champion it? What are you trying to raise funds for? Those questions need to really be looked into. When I was on the committee, I always felt you needed a big project that people really wanted to see happen to make it move forward.
Right.
Just saying you want more money doesn't really sell well.
What are the options? What's the ceiling and what increments can you request?
I think I've always heard at like 2%, 2.5, 1.5%, but 3% is the most, I believe.
Yeah.
I never checked that. 3% is the most they're going to match. That's for sure. And does everyone understand how the matching works?
Well, hold on. I think you should probably explain that because if you have the 3%, you go to the second round. It's not just everyone gets the same, like even if.
Right. So what happens is there's money put into the trust fund account, and that is from a surcharge on or a tax on every deed that's recorded. So right now, whenever the housing market's pretty robust or the real estate market, so there's a lot of deeds going in, there's a lot of money going in. It also is dependent on how many cities and towns have passed it because that's the money going out. And when we first started, very few towns had passed it and it had a pretty big robust balance. So in the first years, never mind 3% or not, everyone was getting a share and it was 100% of their surcharge. Then as more towns adopted it and less money was going in bad real estate times, the trust fund got lower and there was more withdrawal. So they went to their formula, and the formula's on the coalition's website, but there's a first round and everyone gets their share, and it's based on, it's not everyone gets $10. It's a percentage of your match. So everyone would get, just pretend 15% of their match, if that's what was enough in the trust fund for. And then there's a second round and a third round, and the towns that have a 3% match get the additional rounds. And I think there's a second round for lower income communities. I'm not positive about that, but we don't qualify for anything but the first round. So the point is we always get our share. We always get, you know, there was never a promise of 100%. We just happened to sign up when that's what it was. And people assumed because it was 100% and that's what we were getting, that we were promised that. We were only ever promised our share of the trust fund. And that's a story that's oft repeated, that somehow we didn't get our due and like we were dupes or something. And because I wrote the material that was used to promote voting for it, I know for a fact we always told people it was a share of the trust fund. So there's that.
Are there any indications that with the state being flush with money right now, that there's going to be a special appropriation or anything like that?
For CPA money?
Yeah.
No, because not that I've heard of that. What happened? So what happened is, and it's interesting, I battled MAPC years ago when we were getting the 100%. They said there was they called it a surplus in the trust fund, and they were trying to give it to cities that hadn't passed it. And I said, it's not a surplus. Like if you save in your 401c, whatever your retirement fund, if you have a lot of money there, it's for, you know, you're going to use it later. You don't start just giving it away. And we won that and kept it in for CPA communities. But what happened shortly after that, that surplus amount, which was never a surplus, it was just what was the account. What happens is that more cities and bigger cities started signing up and withdrawing more. And then the housing market tanked, so not as many $20 deed funding was going in, and it got lowered. So right now, what happened after that is the Community Preservation Coalition we paid dues to. They lobbied hard on, and they would get a percentage of the free cash after they did the budget. And I don't know how that works, but they'd wait till the state budget was done. And if there was any money left over, they'd fight hard to get some percentage of it. And for quite a few years, we'd get bumped up an additional monies for our match, but we never knew what that would be. And it wasn't, you know, it went from like they were projecting 17%. And then when all was said and done, we'd get 30%. So they worked really hard for that. But then what happened is they also at the same time were working to change the dollar amount of the deed fee that goes in. And since that happened, and because the real estate market is so robust right now, they're expecting and I'm not sure what it's going to be, but they're expecting a larger match than normal this year. But I don't think, because they succeeded in getting that state match, right? I'm not the state match, but the surcharge raised, I don't think they're looking at getting more money that way. But I can ask Stuart. I haven't seen anything in there. But were you looking for somebody else to put money in?
No, I just, the state's got more money than they know what to do with. And it would seem like a natural thing to do. Perhaps, you know, have a supplemental appropriation for people who've adopted the legislation.
I can ask Stuart if I get back to him and ask, what was the other question? Who else has raised their surcharge and how do they go about it?
How they've done it.
Yeah.
Jen, I see Kathy Cook's got her hand up, and if we can bring her in,
I can move over.
because Kathy is the chairman of the advisory committee, and it was Kathy and the advisory that were asking or asked me at one point, I think when I attended their meeting, if we thought about raising the surcharge. So Kathy, we were going through, because we have a lot of new members, doing a little history of how the CPC came to be to begin with, and everything. I think you were probably on for that. And then what Freddie has seen, or how she helped create it to begin with, and what she knows about raising it. But
Freddie knows a lot. So can I just interject for a moment, and then I'll get back out? I don't want to interfere with your meeting more than I need to. But advisory is working on this too, and I wanted you guys to know this. We, I believe, support at least considering changing or proposing to increase the surtax from 1 to 3. So Freddie, I went back and looked, I pulled the votes. So the vote for 3%, which was May 14th, 2001, failed only 5149.
What year was that?
It says it was on it said it was on the ballot. So this is not a town meeting date. It's 5/14/2001.
Right, it always has to go to the ballot, but it had gone to town meeting to get on the ballot.
Yeah, but it only failed. I mean, it was close. It was 49-51. So I'm just saying that doesn't sound horrible to me.
Does it require a 2/3 vote though? Because it involves real estate?
I
Uh,
don't think it involves real estate. Andrew?
No, it's not real estate.
No, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
It's not 2/3 because Mark, when it won, the 2 years later, it was 57-43. That's when it
Okay.
passed. It's 1%. So no, so that should answer that one.
Thank you.
But we did some work, and I just want to give you guys these numbers. So as Freddie said, the fees were changed in November of 19. So the $20 fee went to 50 and the $10 fee went to 25. So they increased them by 250%. The revenue in May of this year into the trust fund was $7.3 million compared to a year ago, which had some of those fees already in there, $4.5 million. So it's gone up a lot as far as what's going in right now. If we were to pass the 3%, everything, I agree with everything Freddie said as far as the tiers go. There's some towns that when they do 3% because of their income, they actually get 100% match. We wouldn't get that. But if we were to approve a 3% surtax based on our most recent year, we would end up with a total going into CPC or CPA accounts of $1.5 million compared to the less than $500,000 we have right now. And that doesn't include the special allocation we get because we did 3%. That's hard to compute, so I didn't even include that. This is just the basic amount that we would get, assuming the collection stayed the same and our taxes stayed the same from 2 years ago. So it's a lot of money. I also agree with Freddie that if you think you want to do this, the way to do it, you're going to have to convince people their projects to fund. I think you can't just go and say, we just want to do this, because there are some people, and you remember what Mr. Hamilton said at town meeting when he was talking about it, as far as his analysis that, too much money's gone to certain parts of town and not enough to others, whatever. So there are people that criticize this. It's only, it's $100 on the average tax bill. So $300 on the average tax bill is what we're talking about. So I'm hoping that we were very glad to hear that this was on your agenda tonight. So advisory, I believe, wants to support this. So I think we would be in your camp as far as backing this and decide how to present it. But I want you guys to know that you're not doing this necessarily alone.
Can I ask a
That's great.
question, Kathy?
Of course.
And then to the committee, it seems like you're assuming it's the CPC who would do this.
I don't know, Freddie. I mean, it kind of makes sense that you would lead the charge, but maybe not. We can talk about how to, sell it the best way if we all decide collectively that we think it should go forward.
Yeah, I think, Freddie, again, this was our first discussion as the committee. So Freddie, I think if you reach out to Stuart at the coalition and ask him, one, how other communities have done it, and two, who really spearheaded it. Kathy, I don't think you'll get much pushback from the committee, at least not from me. I always thought it would be a good idea to get a bigger slice of the pie from the state. But it's been we've had times when we haven't even had a lot of projects out there and we're very flush with funds. Now is a different story with what we just did with the townhouse and everything. So I think we if there were certain projects out there that we anticipate to come, that could be a good carrot to hold out there for the town and rally behind, anticipating either open space or another historic project or something with recreation. I know Paul Desmond asked me about doing a field right after town meeting. So from a recreation standpoint, and I think that was going to be like $5 million. So there definitely is interest out there that we could show that, yes, there is a need overall. But I think getting a good strategy jointly, that it's not just the CPC looking to raise everyone's surcharge, but it's coming from a joint effort from, like Freddie said earlier, and I think Kathy, you're implying too, that advisory is behind it. We have historic behind it, recreation, open space, and everyone, and do the outreach. We could.
Let me be clear, advisory hasn't voted on this, and we've got 4 new members coming on board. So I'm speaking for myself tonight.
No,
But
that's fair.
I do believe that's where we'll end up if I had to guess, but we haven't voted officially. So Freddie, when you talk to Stuart, can you ask him, I think you can only do 1, 2, or 3. I don't think there's 2.5 or 0.5, but I could be wrong. So I think it's either 1, 2, or 3 as far as what your choices are in the law, but I could be wrong.
I'll double check that.
Because that'd be helpful to know that they couldn't go down 0.5%.
So what I would recommend is it's a 2-pronged thing you need, even if the CPC takes it on, if you chose to, you have, and what makes sense is you have representatives of the various interests of the CPC sitting in one meeting, but it would require everyone to go back to their home group and get them charged up and committed to doing some, PR work on it. And also, like we worked with the Southborough Open Land Foundation, the Historical Society, the outside groups that have an interest that aren't necessarily town government, and, having lots of interest, but at the same time asking them, which we have never had good results when we do our annual presentation. The point of that is we ask everybody, bring your project ideas in to us. And, you can hear the crickets. And then it's like, I'll say that the projects are as good as what we get, right? And the statement, we'll come up with a list later, because that was one of the things after town meeting. There's a misperception on where and what projects we've done. So having that list available. I see there's a note that we have different surcharges from 1.1%, 1.5. I was pretty sure there were lower mixed numbers, so.
All right, so it sounds like you're right. You can almost do anything based on what Andrew Fafta said.
Yeah.
Okay, so another little piece of background for those that don't know much about advisory. We are trying to find non-real estate tax ways to raise revenue in the town. We passed the mills tax this past town meeting for that reason, because we know people coming to Southborough eat at our restaurants, and therefore they pay the tax, and not Southborough residents who probably paid in other towns. So this is another one of those when you can invest $1 and get back, 30 cents. 40 cents, it's a really good way to try to raise other revenue besides real estate taxes, right? And if you really can fund projects that would have had to be funded by the tax levy, which I still think is the key selling point here with this money, it almost makes it a win-win. So I think that's the key, is to find projects that we would have had, at least some that we would have had to do anyway. A field that we're going to have to do because there's just too much demand for it. We just don't have enough, that this would serve that purpose for, and would make it a lot easier to sell.
Yeah. Hey, Kathy, can you forward those numbers that you calculated
Yeah.
over to us?
Yeah, all I did, Andrew, was take last year's collections in total, the surtax and the actual local revenue, and multiply times 3 to get to my $1.5 million. And I rounded up slightly. So that's where I got that. But yeah, I will forward what I got to you. I've done this twice now. I've got, I get the same thing every time. The information on the state coalition website is great as far as trying to figure this stuff out.
They're well worth the dues we pay, I would say. I've run those numbers myself, and I just have never found there was enough of a project interest to make it happen and not be accused of just wanting money to spend frivolously.
I think that might be different this time, Freddie, without going into great detail at this point.
Kathy, I'm gonna push back a little bit, because and anticipating what opposition there might be out there. If you want to increase the amount of money everyone's going to pay into the community preservation till, and it's just going to be used for what I would characterize as usual and customary expenses that the town government should pick up. I am not in favor of that. This is not an alternative pot of money for municipal expenses there. The legislation is quite clear. I anticipate that would be part of the opposition, and I might be part of that. I'm not even sure, to tell you the truth.
I'm not trying to say that. For example, what if we'd had this pot of money a few years ago when we were buying the golf course? Would that have been a good use of CPC money? Then, I mean, we didn't have enough money to do it, so the
No,
town
we,
paid for it.
that's not what happened. We did have enough. We were in talks, we were going to, but the selectmen at the time did not want to, from the very beginning, were not willing to put the land outside of the public safety building under a CR. So they walked away. We had those discussions at the very beginning. And then at the end, we came back and got the open space CR. But that's why, because to use CPA money on open space, you have to put a conservation restriction, and they weren't willing to do that when they purchased the property.
Okay, well, putting aside why they didn't do it, to me, that is an example of a project that fits squarely in your bailiwick that shouldn't necessarily meet Mark's criteria as far as the town should fund that. Let's talk about a ball field. So Jen, Rec needs a new ball field, right? Fits squarely in CPC mandates, right? As far as what could be spent for it. But why wouldn't that be a good new project that this new money could fund? Assuming that it needs to be done. And if CPC doesn't do it, then the town's going to have to do it out of tax revenue. So that's what I'm talking about, Mark, is something that really does fit squarely in the CPC bailiwick as far as what your missions are, and therefore could use CPC money to fund instead of having to use tax money to fund, because it's something we really need to do, but it's still one of these buckets.
So theoretically, if we go down this route and we want to raise this this surcharge for CPA funds, does that mean our regular taxes are going to go down?
No, well,
Just, I mean,
Oh.
like, I know we're saying here that like, here's an opportunity to potentially get like additional money from the state to fund these projects, but in reality, to the actual taxpayer, like their taxes aren't going to go down through this. It's just going to be, you know what I mean? So I actually agree. I think we need to know like what projects, like what would we actually be funding, so they could decide if that's something that they want to do to fund these additional projects that might not have happened otherwise. Or, but if we're just increasing this additional tax rate on the taxpayer and we don't have a clear path forward of why we would need this money, I think they're going to look at our history and like there's going to be opinions about whether we should or shouldn't have funded things in the past, and that's how they're going to decide their vote going forward, you know?
it's
So-
possible, and you can't get up and say it's a dollar for dollar. You know, you're going to save on your real estate taxes and what you're going to pay in the surtax, right? So you can't say that. But let's go back to the townhouse project. The townhouse really needs work on it, right? This is not something we were doing just to make it look nicer. Those windows really needed to be replaced. Something was going to have to get done one way or the other. So that's, I think, a perfect example of something the town was going to have to do with real estate tax revenue if the CPA surcharge wasn't able to fund it. Turns out it was a stretch, but it was. But that's one, Mark, that, you know, you did fund, right? And the town would have had to do that at some point soon. If we didn't do something, we'd put off that project year after year after year, and something was going to have to get done soon, at least on the windows to keep that building going.
Kathy, you're making my point. I don't think we should have been guilt tripped into funding the townhouse. I think that's something the town should have, in a perfect world, planned for about a decade or so ago. And of course, they didn't. It badly needed work. And I'm the first one to agree. I think it should have been preserved. I don't think it should have been done by half measures. I think it should have been done right, and it's going to be done right. I don't think we should have funded 100% of it. I think that's a travesty. I would have gladly voted to fund 50 or 75% of it, but for the we don't, we cut the town more slack than we cut anybody else.
I think-
Trying to figure out another one then that would work and try to fit your criteria here. But the town struggles financially. So any help we can get from the state match really does help. So I think that's a good example of one where it's certainly for the right purpose, and it did save the town from having to fund it completely. So the state helped fund the reconstruction. So I can't think of another good one right now off the top of my head, Mark. I thought that was a good one. I thought you would like that one.
I think, Kathy, the difference being is, I think long range, the CPC shouldn't be viewed as an alternative source to be maintenance on the town's historic buildings or recreation fields that get let go and now we have to completely rehab. That's not the charge of the CPC in general. And we've kind of done that a couple of times. And I think what, Mark, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you're going to say is the town needs to step up and take responsibility of just regular maintenance. And then the CPC should really be focused on broader projects that the town wants beyond maintenance to buildings or facilities or, things like that. Is that right, Mark?
I think that's fair. And I don't mean, I hope I'm not attacking you. I don't mean to.
No, you're not. I don't feel attacked at all. I'm just trying to come up with a better example for you. And I don't know that I'm going to.
No, I think what Andrew said is pretty accurate. I mean, people could spin this and say, this is just a creative way to avoid increasing the property tax. And there's some that argument has legs, and I think that's got to be addressed.
So Mark, I agree with it. If this was just literally taking it from one side, putting it on the other, left side to the right side, and that's all it is, I would probably mostly agree. But because you get the match, this is money coming into the town that we wouldn't have otherwise to be used.
Agreed.
So that's why, I mean,
I
that's
think-
if we didn't have the match, I wouldn't be here tonight. If this match hadn't gone up so much from a couple of years ago and could increase further if we were to go from 1 to 3, I wouldn't be here. Because it was going down, right? It wasn't very exciting for a couple of years, but now it's turned around. It's going back up because of this increase in fees. And I'm hoping, like you, that the state's so flush with money that they will continue doing this, one-shot infusion to it in the falls.
Okay.
I think the other challenge also is that, so yes, we get a match, but we also have like the 10% going to these different buckets. So also watching our housing bucket is just climbing and not being spent. So we may be getting a match, but then we're also socking away this money that's been sitting there for years and never being spent. So like, unless there's like housing projects coming up or it's actually going to get used, we're also like, we're getting the match long-term, but in the short term, we're not actually seeing the benefit of that match, I guess. Right? If we're not spending it, if it's just sitting there.
Well, I mean, the match still gets distributed evenly across all the buckets. So if we
True,
increase,
but I guess like
you
the increase, like if we increase from like the 1 to 3%, we're socking a bunch more away in housing that like.
Well, there's no problem. You've got a problem with housing, but you've got a problem now with housing. This would maybe exacerbate it. But 90% of the match is for the most part being spent because you're spending almost everything in the other buckets and in the reserve one.
So you could run the numbers of what, for the internal thinking, what the 10% of the state match would take away from your increase in the new revenue from the match. If like if you're
And I
getting,
guess I'm
if you're
thinking it's not just the match, it's also the percentage increase, right? So we're just.
right, figure all that, and then
Yep.
maybe instead of looking at it as the money piling up, maybe look at it if there's significant amount of money that there'd be more incentive to do something.
Or change the allocation.
You can't change
We
the
can't.
allocation.
It's a state law.
It's the legislation that passed the CPA
So 10 has to
requirement.
go into housing.
Yep.
And why wouldn't we want to fund it? We just need to find a way to spend it, right?
Yep.
It's
And
a
there's
core.
some discussion on some things going on. I don't know if it'll come to fruition, but it's well aware that that's the bucket that is underutilized. So I think that's all I got to add tonight, and I appreciate you guys letting me come in and jumping on like this. I know you've probably got a lot to going on.
Thank you for your input.
So keep us posted. We'll keep you posted as far as what we're thinking. We've got fall town meetings now been pushed back to November 1st. So if you were thinking you wanted to go forward with this, I think we've got time probably to maybe get it ready, if not at least for next March.
Okay.
So can I suggest that the CPC is having a annual presentation when we reach out to everyone to tell us what projects they have? And if anyone is aware of a project, and if you know of any, Kathy, that would be the time to bring it back to the CPC, which I think would help them make some decisions on using the money what we have now, as well as, what need there is for future funding.
Well, apparently there's a lot of projects over on Pine Hill Road, which I'll speak to my neighbor Al Hamilton about and make sure we can bring those forward.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you. All
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
right. Bye-bye.
So, Freddie, if you can, I think there were a couple of to-dos out of that, which was, with the coalition, finding out, the, how other communities have raised their, surcharge, in the process or the combination of groups they use to actually do it. Whatever Stuart has to advise us on how.
Right, we know that we can do the percentage.
Yeah,
There was another question. I can listen to it. I didn't note it.
yeah, okay.
If there's any rumors about supplemental appropriations.
That's it.
Great. All right. And then we'll keep this on the meeting for next time too, to discuss, what, Freddie, what you're able to uncover, and then, see where it takes us from there. So going back to minutes, anyone have a chance to read the minutes? Everyone good with them?
I did look.
Question with that one?
I did look at them. They looked.
Perfect.
I found two small, tiny things. On the first page, when we're talking about the capital planning committee, there's a sentence that says in that first big paragraph, says this committee was voted in at this year's annual town meeting. It's actually not accurate. The town voted it down,
Oh, where's this?
right? There was a warrant article to make it an official committee and the town voted it down.
What's that mean? It's an ad hoc committee. It was a,
So it's still ad hoc, yeah,
Right.
it's not, which changes like the terms of like, what it can and can't do. So just to clarify that one in our meeting minutes.
Okay, got it. Sorry about that.
No, no problem. And then I think it's page 3 in the draft MOUs, it says that we were like in the second sentence that we were going to go from quarterly to biannual. I think we said we were going to go from biannual to quarterly updates. So it's just inversed.
Okay. Oh, I see. All right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I just have one very small change. I think Jason Malinowski's last name is
Oh.
spelled incorrectly a couple times throughout. So maybe just
Okay.
double check that just to make sure we, get it right for the record.
Got it. Yep. Shall do.
So, we didn't have a motion for the minutes, but I think there was some corrections that were made. So,
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
can I ask a question?
well, is there a second?
Sorry.
Second.
There we go. Okay, Freddie, you had a question?
Betsy
Yeah.
took the minutes via a phone call. She's not identified as being at the meeting. Should she be identified as being on a call? She didn't need, because she's not a member, she didn't need to do any form thing, but is that something that, or just leave it alone?
I'm gonna say I think it's fine unless I
Okay.
see Ann Stiver's hand go up. We're gonna run with that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good observation, but I agree with Andrew.
Yeah, as I was talking, I was like, just leave that alone, Freddie. Trying to put my hand over
Duly
my
noted.
mouth.
Stir that pot.
I mean, I don't know, even when I'm at the planning board, I don't think we necessarily keep track of who's taking the minutes. I mean, even though it's Kate the whole time, but I don't, so, okay. All right, so there's been a motion, it's been seconded, they were amended before the motion. Let's see, I'm gonna go around as I see people. Let's say all those in favor, Mills, yes. Jen,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and David.
I'll say abstain since I was not at the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so next on the, let's go back to the MOUs. So I know they came out a little late. Freddie and I were tweaking them a lot. So my apologies for how they came out. The intent was to get them to everyone. And if we can either go through them tonight. We could, I mean, if, see, they're not that long. If everyone can read them, Jen, can you pull up one at a time and see if there's?
Yeah,
any-
I can do that. Let me just find the which one?
Can I state, based on Jen's wonderful draft of the draft I had, which, pretty much lays it all out, everything in there, except for maybe one or two things, is from the warrant articles themselves. It's not like we made up anything, except for I did try to figure out one. When you get to it, I'll explain it. But, and then there's some questions on, I don't know when the time start is and stuff, so.
All
All
right,
right, so you should see I've got Calander up first.
Do people want to know what's been changed in that? In the first part of it, the only thing that's added is the project name, the date approved, the warrant article number. I'm going through the first paragraph, the town meeting date, and then the next paragraph is all standard language. Then
So
you come,
curious, in the first sentence, at the end, the greater than sign, is that supposed to be there?
no, that was part of her insert here.
Gotcha.
Can you take that out if you
Do you want
have
me to-
access?
Yeah, let me,
Or I can make a note and do it. I
yep,
just don't
give
have
me
it
a
on my
second.
screen.
Yeah, I just need to translate it because I'm on a Mac, so it's working.
The other thing I had a question on, should MOU, the memorandum of understanding, be capitalized in the first sentence, or is that just when you use the initials?
I would capitalize it because I
I think
think.
it should be.
Yeah.
So that will be in all of them. I wasn't sure, so. I have a tendency to capitalize things when they're not supposed to be, I was told. So I didn't change it.
Mhm. All right, let me, I'm just gonna share the Word doc instead. Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna just fix this one.
This is
Restoration.
very, very impressive.
All right, so those two, oh wait, memorandum, yep. So I know, so I can give feedback on start and end dates. Actually, so we had a rec meeting last night. We are ready to go to send this out to bid like right now. So rec would actually like this memorandum as soon as possible so that it could go out to bid. So like this start date, is this being like when the bid goes out or when they break ground?
Break ground.
Okay. I think like our hope would be Probably likely September. By the time a bid goes out and comes back and is approved, it could be September.
So put that in and, because
Okay.
it's anticipated, it's not.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. And then like, yeah, this should be done no later than December. At the worst case scenario.
Yep, okay.
Jen, in
Uh,
the line of the last paragraph right before that, I think there's a space and Calander or like a dash.
Oh yeah, you're right. It should be a no.
I don't know who typed that. Andrew.
I know. There's a gremlin on my computer. It's my 11th digit.
When I play bell choir, if you hit the wrong note, you turn to the person next to you and you look at them like they've made a mistake. It's a fun times at bell choir. Anyhow.
Okay, so page 2.
Oh, this is a mistake. See, project specific requirements.
Yep.
Number 3, that shouldn't
Yep.
be there. And number 4. When I first started this, I forgot it was in the body of the language up above.
Okay.
So you
That's-
delete everything, including project-specific requirements included, right?
So is there anything specific in the Warren article beyond? I don't think there was anything extra there, was there?
I would take that, yeah, I'd take that out. So does everyone think that looks good?
Yeah,
Proponent,
oh,
why is that proponent signature, is that spelled wrong? Why is it highlighted?
No, it doesn't know what to look for.
Alright.
Proponent. It's correct.
Okay. All right. So everyone comfortable with this MOU?
You can take out the draft and Andrew can send it to recreation tomorrow
Cool.
night.
Awesome.
If you vote, I mean, do you have to vote on these?
Just a quick question. I just wanted to know, just that, to clarify that why we took out that project specific requirements. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Because
Just
it's already
reading-
captured above, so it was repetitive.
Okay.
We'd move the
It's
language
repetitive.
to further up. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Great.
Did anyone want to double check the numbers or? I'm pretty confident they're good. It's,
I know you sent, I
We're
think, the
good.
warrant articles also. They're good.
are you looking at the warrant, David?
Just at the, no, I was looking at the MOU.
Okay.
All right. Let me download these so we can edit them as we go. All right. Cool. Share. All right, so for townhouse.
So this was a little convoluted. So the first paragraph, it's the article number that's different. And second paragraph is standard, so that should just be the same. Contact info, we put John Parent's info in there. Brief description, this is pretty much from the summary of the Warren article. I wasn't sure about the start date. I know they want to start right away.
Yeah, I would say let's put September in there. because I think that's what they're kind of shooting for.
Okay, and end date?
Uh, Let's put September of 2022.
I think a year's long enough.
It's anticipated maybe if John knows something different, he could tell Andrew before he
Yeah.
signs.
That works. Okay.
And also, it's
I al-
anticipated if they change the date, they can come back and discuss it with us. With you.
I often use on or about when it's, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, not much.
I like that.
Okay.
So double check these numbers with me because it was a little difficult, but the total project cost was the 284, third line down.
Well, with the,
So- Yeah, I think so. Freddie, you also sent out the warrant tonight, right? Could someone
Yep.
else maybe pull up the warrant and double check for us?
Yeah, I
Just
have
'cause
the
I think if I pull it up, you won't be able to see my screen.
I have the warrant up right now.
Okay.
So the first two lines are correct. Um,
So what you have is the bonding is the first.
2030. Yep, bonding's the first. And then 192,609. Yep. 15,675. Yeah. That matches the warrant.
great.
Then
I must have done that part, Freddie.
I know you did.
Just-
It was because it was confusing because you had the contingency and then you had some was the bonding and if you read the warrant article, I think Aldo and Mark Purple tore their hair out a little bit,
Ugh.
but the bond accountant knew what it meant. Now when we get down to the general requirements, it's the same.
Yep.
Now we get to the specific requirements, which were in the body of the warrant article. The summary is, the brief description is from the summary. So I took from the warrant article some key points and then I made one up. So I don't mean I made it up. It seemed to be a logical requirement. So read through those. The language is a cut and paste, but it seems like those are specific requirements, right?
So, on one of them with the one that says discuss the details, signage required to acknowledge the use of CPC funds. Signage is requested, no, it's required. It's not requested, right?
Where is it saying that? Is that in the
Just further
standard language?
Second page.
1C. 1C. Discuss the details of signage required to acknowledge.
Signage is requested, yeah, right there. It says C. It says request, signage is requested.
Yeah, but that means requested to be installed as soon as possible. The line above it says it's required.
Okay,
So
As soon as possible, but before we pay the final 20%?
Yep.
Does that read that way as a requirement? Okay,
that's how it reads to me.
because when you request, we're still requesting things.
Okay. So then these are the project specific ones.
So number 4 is important because they have to get your approval who holds it.
Mhm.
That's in the warrant. Number 5 just is, I have a hard time reading that, not smiling. Six was in the, I think that's worth putting in there.
there's like two, oh, never mind.
I put 8 in I think you need to know when the 180 days start. You can, that wasn't in the warrant article, but I think it makes sense that you want to know that.
Mhm.
And then I put number 9 in. I think you want to see the PR before it's submitted. The
Right.
warrant article didn't give you oversight, but I think you want to see it. But
Mass Historical will reject it if it doesn't comply, right?
absolutely, but they will, and that will be worked out between the applicant. But I just think you would want to see it.
Do we have the right to? Yeah, we could give input, I said. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All it's not saying you're going to have input. It just says you want a copy
Well, you
and
can-
review. I guess to review. If you don't want that obligation, I mean, if they don't want to do that, it seems minor. But you kind of want it for your records.
Maybe just take out the words for
A
review.
review, yeah.
So they'll just submit a copy to us so we have it, you know.
Well, that would be the final copy you could get, but
you know,
Prior to submittal to Mass Historical Commission.
at or about the time that they submitted to the Mass Historical.
I think the question is, are we gonna have input on it before they submit it, or are we just being made aware of it?
Right.
I don't think we reserve the right to have input with it, but we could let Mass Historical know our thoughts.
well, the only thing I was thinking is, does it say specifically the windows?
Does the preservation restriction refer specifically to the windows? Is that your question?
The preservation
Is this a problem?
of the building.
The windows of the building are historical, but were they talking about replacing them? And did we agree to that? And does that language then become moot?
Well, in number 3, we say to grant perpetual preservation restriction on the historical exterior and windows of the town building.
Yeah.
So if that's coming directly from the warrant, it was included.
Yeah, because they're doing historic restoration of the windows.
Well, in that case, you may want, the reason I put that in is that there's certain things that are included in what goes in the PR. And you may want to make sure they get put in the PR or not.
I thought they were replacing the windows.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that could be a mistake and we may need to.
I think they're replacing them if I remember the presentation. I remember her talking about the mahogany windows are kind of beyond restoration at this point.
In the brief description, it does say replacement, and that the replacement components will be designed in such a fashion as to authentically replicate the original components they would replace.
So there's a bit of a, I'm not sure the correct word to use, but
So,
That-
I mean, I think there's gonna be some back and forth with John on this.
so we know we have a problem in number 3 that says,
I don't think I thought we went back and forth on this numerous times with them and saying that the way they were gonna reconstruct it still met the preservation restriction requirements.
Right,
Mhm.
because
I
they
thought
can-
that's what their expert was telling us over and over and over again.
it will
Yeah.
be done historically, but you can't, well, you can talk it out with John and the historical architect, Andrew, when you submit it, because I'm just questioning, they'll replace the historic windows in a historic appropriate manner, but I don't know how they address that in a PR, because as we've learned in CPA 101, you can't create new historical resources. You can,
Yeah, but if they still use the glass that's there, right?
were they planning to do that?
I don't think they were planning to
I
do
think they're
that.
planning on using double pane. Remember, Michael wanted it for the society to have?
Oh, yeah. All right, well, let's just highlight it and that can be something I can work out with John.
Okay.
So in number 9, are we taking out the words for review prior? Or for review or not? We're leaving it there.
Why don't you leave it there and see if John pushes back?
Okay.
I like that idea.
Doesn't say they have to follow any of your comments, but
That's a can of worms we might address at some point. What happens if they don't do some of this stuff?
so what we've learned in the past, there's a lot of things that there's no what's the term, a hammer?
Yeah, I mean,
There's no
this-
consequences to much of this, but at least it's saying this is our agreement. And once you fund a project, you can't not pay the bond, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, that'll get interesting.
I have a quick sort of formatting question point. Is there any difference between the perpetual preservation restriction that's referenced in 3, 7, and one of the others, as opposed to the PR? Or is that the same? And if it is, should we be consistent with how we reference it, or is
Yeah.
that?
yeah, that I think that was Andrew typing again.
Point.
And number 8.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you were really good at this, you'd probably be able to cut and paste that.
Find and replace.
Anything else? Or are we good on this one?
I think I'm good.
I think we're good.
Good for further review.
All right, so next. All right, 1 second. And where am I? All right. So trails.
We didn't have a project name. I think that's something, if it's not on the application, we want to have supplied before we do approve articles next time. Is there a better name for it?
That looks good to me.
Okay.
Yep.
Phone
Oh.
number. Should I put the townhouse phone number, or should it be, I mean, I have a personal number, but I don't know that's,
Don't put her personal number.
That's
in.
what I thought.
wouldn't.
Yeah,
So put the
agreed.
townhouse number in.
Yeah.
Can you
Agreed.
type that in, Jen?
Do you know what it is?
508 481 0710.
0710?
I think, let me double check because people know their home childhood numbers, but not today with your cell phones, right?
Right, all stored. Nobody memorizes anything.
But I'm pretty sure I called that so much. I know it. Yeah. 508. Did I say 481? It's 485 0710.
Cool.
I cut and pasted. The summary was a bit long on this one, so I tried to get the most important areas in. I think maybe I'm. So start date, I don't know if you're still reading that, sorry. I made up the, I shouldn't say made up, I used my great resource of reasoning to think that this would be appropriate because she doesn't have public access yet.
I thought DCR finally approved it. I saw something in the paper like a couple of weeks ago that they finally got off their backsides, but or maybe maybe it wasn't formally approved. I don't know.
I didn't, well,
But they released their public access plan.
was it for this reservoir?
I thought it was statewide. I'd have to check. I read it in the newspaper, but on or after DCR approval of a public access plan for the reservoir land, I'd go with something like that. And I take no pride in authorship here. If anyone has an issue with, by all means, chime in.
I thought it sounded good.
Yep.
All right, so then budget.
Can you go back up to the start date? I mean, it didn't like start. That's okay. So I put, it may be a little confusing. The grant application is also a thing that impacts this project moving forward, because once DCR approves the public access, then they're eligible to apply for the grant, and they could approve the public access today, but the grant's not until February. Or worst case scenario, they could approve the public grant money in April and you have to wait to the following February. I mean, this could be out a long time because of the grant proponent. So I just want people to be aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would anticipate if they're gonna they're gonna use this to originally do the signs and put the fencing up and everything. And then apply for a grant to do additional parking and everything. I'm thinking this is gonna be at least 2 years.
Not to nitpick, I think I'd insert date between the and DCR on that anticipated start date line. Right where the cursor is.
After the day or
Date.
date, okay. That DCR approves. Approves.
And anticipated end date, can we just say to be determined?
I'm fine with that.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah.
In this case, it's just out of our control.
Right.
Okay,
I would suggest you put the project budget all together.
And I checked those
Um,
numbers against the warrant and they all match.
Good job, Andrew. Give you a little credit there.
give me much. All right,
All right, so this section's all the same. So for project specific, there's only a one.
So should that actually say 1 instead of 3?
No,
Well,
because 1 and
gonna
2 are above.
continue.
Oh, I see.
I thought it was worth mentioning that part of this grant was dependent on them applying.
Can-
Part of this funding was dependent on them applying for another grant. Or the intention.
where is 1? I don't see 1.
It's right here, one, meet with the CPC.
I have it up on my screen, my other screen too, so. Wasn't on the other one. Okay,
I did that a few times myself. I changed all the numbers and then I went back and found the 1 and 2. And I did it on the one that had like 8 numbers for the townhouse before I realized that there was a 1 and 2 above.
Could you put a period after match there?
great. So everyone good with this one? Is there any way we can like take a couple lines out, get proponents?
Yep.
Bring that up,
Tighten it up.
will do. I think there might have been some dead space up here. Oh,
That was the project budget though.
yeah, all right, I can mess with that a little bit. All right, I'll just save the content and then pull up the next one. All right. So same arcs.
And can we, instead of calling it the bell tower, can we call it the clock tower?
I only question, what has everyone always called it?
I think they referred to it at town meeting as the clock tower.
Then change it.
Yeah.
Do any of our applications say clock tower?
I believe it does.
Okay.
The warrant article seems to reference bell tower.
I know, but I think their application was actually clock tower.
Okay.
Gonna make a difference now, Andrew.
I know I got through, but I mean,
Always better to change the perception, but
I think the top section's all the same, right?
and I assume now that this got approved, I'm fine with talking about the administration of how we're gonna fund this or how we're gonna do it, right?
you're not
Uh,
advocating for anything.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, okay.
Mhm.
Should this say clock instead of bell?
Yes, please. There's another one. Just,
Yeah, next sentence, yeah.
Do we
anticipate,
know start dates? Yeah.
well, I think they still need to do some fundraising on their own, so I don't know if both these need to be TBD.
I think they should take that T-shirt suggestion of yours, Freddie.
I think it was a great suggestion.
I do too.
It was too funny. Everyone kept coming up to me. I was the deciding vote. So I went over to tell his father Phil, put the clock tower on a T-shirt, and I was the deciding vote. They did put up a nice thank you banner, I thought.
That was very nice. I agree.
Class act there.
For contingency fee, should we put in 0
Or dash, I don't,
or write none?
NA.
NA's good.
Okay.
I thought the 300 sort of said it, but
All right. And these funding source numbers, you want to just double check those?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right
All
now.
right, awesome.
Fund balance.
Probably put periods at the end of the sentences on A and B.
Yeah, the numbers look good there.
Gotcha, thanks.
Thank you.
they might all need it on all, did you notice?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at them. So that top section's all the same. And then it would be, we have no project specific requirements here.
You guys want to double check it and then she can just, do you think of any? I think it was pretty straightforward.
I agree.
They already have the PR on it.
I'm surprised no one brought that up.
Yeah, me too.
Do you guys know what we're talking about?
No,
There's already a preservation restriction on the bell tower or the clock tower.
okay.
So
That's
the-
good.
I thought it was asked. I thought someone actually came up to the mic and asked why we weren't requiring it on that.
Someone did, but no one pointed out, then why are we funding it if they can't take it down,
Well,
right?
yeah. I'm not sure that preservation restrictions require you to maintain them. It just doesn't allow you to take, it depends on what's in the restriction. It just, so like if the thing falls apart on you versus you can't tear it down willfully.
Mhm.
I think I looked into it and had a little bit of comfort that,
I thought us putting our preservation on these things was to like ensure that the upkeep and maintenance will happen. And conform.
Right. I just thought that would be a logical question if someone figured it out that. If they
Jen, I'm
don't-
going to look into that because you could be
Okay.
right. That might be mistaken on my part.
Didn't they just get the PR though, as part of the emergency funding grant that they've already gotten?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They didn't have the PR when they first started coming to us, but we sent them back to go do fundraising when I was still the chair back then. And they went back and they did fundraising. And then in that time, they got the emergency money and put the PR, and then they came back to the CPC.
Got it.
But
So. All right, everyone good with this one?
Yeah.
Good.
All right, so then the last one is going to be historical.
And there,
Just that
there will
little
be periods
hyphen.
required. To Mark's point, there will be, in the other documents, we do need that.
Yeah, I thought so. I'll clean those up.
this brief description has double,
Yep, I see. His email is at southboroughhistory.org, not a town email.
it's a historical society.
Oh, gotcha. That's right, not the commission. Okay.
I think we should hire an historical architect, not a historical architect. Not, I hate to be at the risk of sounding nitpicky.
Okay.
That made it into the warrant article.
There were a lot of errors in our warrants this year, so.
Just ours, like our committee, or
No, not our committee. I mean, other warrants where
Yeah.
like there are lots of errors. Anything else here?
I don't see.
Is that Michael's cell phone number?
Mm,
Yeah, I think it might be. Betsy, did you get that off the application?
Yes, I actually, yeah, off the application, yes, that's what he listed on the application.
that
Okay.
is his cell phone number, by the way.
So
Well, that's what he listed.
if it's on the application, you guys can decide if you want to put it here or not.
If you put it on the application.
Yep.
That's
I think
fine.
it's fine. There's no alternative because we wouldn't go to the town, so.
Yep.
Okay. Any anticipated start or end dates?
I just put contingency fee, I put NA. Our start and end dates, no, I wouldn't. I mean, this was just the assessment, so an assessment shouldn't take longer than a year, right? So let's put on or after August 2021.
Sounds good.
And what did you say before, Mark? You used approximately or?
On or about, or no later than, if you want to be restrictive, but
On or about, say April. of 20.
sounds good.
So the next portion, I use my deductive reasoning. Oh, it's not the next portion. This is the, do you want to go back up and put the periods in if they're needed?
I
Is
already
that-
did.
Okay.
I just
Yeah,
did.
she did.
So I thought, given, and you will want to discuss this, but it's by the Historical Society, it's town-owned property, and you wanted, if you read the warrant article, and I think it's in the summary as well, that, what does it say up above in the,
The very top, it says that, with review by Southborough Facilities Department Director John Parent.
so that's one of those things, what does that mean to the CPC? Do you want assurances that there's been that review done before you? So I thought this was a way of saying that. You want John Parent to sign off on the historical architect and to sign off on the payments were done according to, the work is done according to what he approved for a town building.
But there's no work happening. This is just a research study.
True.
It's not
Right.
just, there's some, you're correct, it's a research, but research with, scraping away stuff and, I mean, I don't know, that's up to you to decide. How many layers of paint are they taking off?
Well, I think he's just trying to get down to the original paint color, so I mean, I'd be surprised if they took a whole board off and
Do you
glued
want,
to the building.
so the question is, what role does John Parent have that you want to have him involved with?
I think we wanted John Parent to just be in line with what they were doing, and if they were coming up with since it's a town building, that he is knowledgeable of what they're doing and what the town could be in the end be responsible for maintaining.
So that's the next phase, but this, you put it in this phase. So is there anything you want to put here that you want John Parent to have an obligation to provide to you?
I think personally, I would like to see that John partners with them so that whatever the recommendations are, that they're both in agreement that that's what needs to get done. And it's not just the historical society saying this is what we're going to do to the building, and the town be like, whoa, what's happening here? So I think that the sooner we start that relationship, the better.
So you don't want the recommendations to come out for something that John Parent says, no, we're not going to do, or we don't want to happen.
Correct. Because I don't want to fight on town meeting floor when they come with well, they say they're not going to come to us with what the next phase is, but
Yeah, they have a big pot of gold somewhere. They leprechauns.
so like I just don't want to have an argument on town meeting floor about what's going to happen with the building, and we've already funded it. But I mean, that's the other piece too. This might, if they do have the funding to do it, John should be aware of what they're doing before it just happens without, I could totally see that happening if they actually had the funds, right? They just go ahead and do whatever what the consultant said.
What they want.
John could be surprised and be like, what's going on?
Do we want to like is the end of this project before we make final payment that we have that we review the recommendations with John and the Historical Society and us? Like there's a
Yeah, I think
review.
that's a great.
I like that.
And I just realized I'm sitting here in the dark now. The sun went down.
Are you out of electricity?
I'm just on the porch. It means I have to get up and go turn it on.
Oh,
Mood lighting.
I just didn't realize it until I saw myself in the video.
one time my Harley, when he was sick, he got upset about something and he tipped over the lamp in the room, and I sat through the whole meeting in the dark. I was using my cell phone as a flashlight to see what I was writing, because if I got up, I was going to disturb him again.
Huh.
Poor Harley.
Okay, so I'm throwing something out there. So I don't know what else we're gonna add to the sentence about
Final
the full
payment.
final payment.
What is final payment? Is it a percent, and that's, I'm just bringing up, it gets tricky because town meeting approved the project. You can't really withhold funds if somebody's done work.
Yeah, but typically when you hire someone for a research study, you usually get like a almost done draft to review and then make any final questions or comments before they finalize it, right?
But is final payment, $50, or is it a percentage?
It's going to be the terms of whoever they hire, right?
Yeah, based on their billing.
Okay.
Yeah. Just thinking it'd be nice to see it before they finalize it so we could have a say if there's outstanding questions or we don't feel they did enough work or something like that.
Let there be light.
Yeah.
So I think that gets rid of the next bullet, right?
Yeah, that's not a bullet.
Yeah.
That's just gone.
Yeah, I was just moving it down while we talked.
I'm gonna make another suggestion too. Under 3, partner with the Historical Society. That sounds like John Parent and the Historical Society both have veto power over who gets hired. If you put collaborate with the Historical Society, that suggests it's John's call, which I think it probably should be, or it should be somebody's call, not an equal weighting. You know what I mean?
I think they already have the historical architect. I think they're using Sullivan, Spencer, and Voight, or whatever the architect for the townhouse. I think they've already selected that, kind of pending the funding approval.
So this is probably, academic. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So we got
That's
all
all of
5 of
them.
them done.
Nicely done. Great
Ready,
job,
thank
Jeff.
you for all the work you put into that, and Jennifer, thank you for the edits.
And Jen, the draft, and Betsy helped with supplying some of the information from the applications. Don't ever want to forget Betsy.
Excellent teamwork. Appreciate it. So if we're good with that, I'll move to the next agenda item, the OSPC request for admin funds.
Yes,
Freddie,
ahead.
would you like to talk about this as chairman of the open space, or?
I would. The Open Space Preservation Commission.
Yep.
And do I have the ability to share my screen?
In a second you can.
Host disabled it, so
Now you
button was
can.
there, so I pressed.
Now you can.
All right. You're not seeing anything, right?
Nope.
That's good. I'm going to stop for a minute. See if I can do this. I'm not great at it. I think I did it. Let me see. Share screen. Oops, I think I got the wrong one up. Give me one more minute. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Did I just lose you guys?
No, we're here.
No.
We're-
You're here, but I'm not? Okay. And I just keep losing.
Is your computer open?
Yeah, I'm seeing stuff, but not, oh, maybe this is it. Are you seeing something there?
Yes,
Yep, yes. Yes.
nicely done.
Okay, give me a minute and I will. You guys are all at the top though. I can't,
Mhm.
somehow I have to get rid of you.
Oh, we
There
can
we
see
go.
it.
Slideshow. Start from the beginning. Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't get this, this happened. I met with the trustees of the library yesterday and the Open Space Commission at noon today, and this came together. The Open Space Commission had discussed applying for a CPA application, but we need some information before we can put that application together. So this is for $400 of admin money for a project cost assessment to prepare our CPC application. And this all came about today. So the Open Space Preservation Commission has a native pollinator, native plant initiative. We are currently working on a collaborative effort with the library on a pollination preservation public display garden. This is just some background info. We've been working with Dr. Robert G. Gear from U of Mass. He's been doing a lot of his research at Breakneck Hill. From that research, he's created a list of plants that are required to help save our most at-risk pollinators from headed towards extinction. And we have several of them at Breakneck Hill. And this is his contact info. This is the list of plants, what he found for bumblebees in particular, but he's gone on to also have plants for at-risk butterflies and other bees. But for bumblebees, they need both pollen and nectar the entire season from early spring until the fall. Specific plant he found, many people thought these pollinators were bumblebees are generalists, they'll just use any flower. He found that's not true. The ones at risk are actually long-tongue bees and have specific plant preferences. And actually we had lost one of them, Bombus fervidus, from Breakneck Hill in 2019. And by putting these plants in at Breakneck Hill, we have a healthier population today than we have since he's been surveying since 2015. So we know it works. So this is just partial plant list. And the goal is to create both pollen and nectar plants throughout the whole season, and to have these plants in gardens throughout town, in addition to conservation land. And the goal there is to, why would people start planting plants they're not familiar with? Well, if they see them in a pretty garden, they are more likely to plant them at home, and also it will provide benefit at the library for public outreach and education, and Dr. G. Gear will give some presentations at the library as well. So the Open Space Commission looked around, where is there other places for these pollination preservation gardens? This map, can you see my cursor? So we have them at Breakneck Hill. This is the golf course. We actually already have a project ongoing there where we're moving invasive species, and the Warren article project also said we'd be replacing them once that's finished with plants from Dr. G. Gear's list. The Open Space Commission is partnering with the Southborough Open Land Foundation. We have a garden started here, soil prep. This is the library, and St. Mark's School is in conversations with us. And I'm not sure, I forget which one that was. Maybe at the dam, we would hope to talk with DCR to get some action there. So last fall, we'd been working with the library, Brian Donovan, and now with the trustees. They put in a grant that was supplied, and this is when we met with them. This whole area is the area we were allocated to use, and we were giving a $3,000 funding source. What we found in the property, this section of the library grounds, it's at the, where you just saw, it's at the rear of the parking lot, between the parking lot and the cemetery. And it had a lot of, there's been a lot of neglect there. There was actual trash, but invasive species, really not great. I have other pictures, but that show even worse conditions. But there's also a lot of opportunity. We hope to provide nature-based activity area, which, you know, currently I think the demand for outdoor classrooms is not going away. We also want to teach people about lawn alternatives and why we leave the leaves. That's not a talk for this conversation, but I just want to show you the benefit many different projects will be doing here. So the project expanded beyond our $3,000 budget. Oh, I don't know why that's again. Am I going backwards? Okay, so here you can see, do you see those white flags? That's the area of a wildflower perennial garden. But to fulfill all of the plant requirements of Dr. G. Gear's list, we need shrubs and trees as well to supply the pollen and to get everything we need, and also to help make the whole landscape more beautiful and eco-friendly. And so we're using up all the grant on this garden area. Of course, now it's been raining so much we can't plant because it's too wet. Some of our ground is under water. But we also are doing lawn alternatives, and there'll be time for more of that information for you at another workshop, but we're trying to get people to reduce the size of their lawn. This area in the back is just, where all broken trees and leaves have been piled in. We want to clean that out. There's also a lot of invasives there, and put a spring ephemeral and woodland flowering plants, and also to put in some of the other shrubs along the stone wall. This here is an example at Garden in the Woods, some of the types of things
Freddie, can we jump to what you want the admin funds for?
to fund all of this. That was the end.
Oh,
Sorry. So lawn alternatives and, to have healthy. So we don't know how much all of the plantings are going to cost. The removal of all the debris and the invasive species. There's some
some large bushes you need to put in.
yeah, so I'm trying to, how do I stop share? I don't know. Can you take me off?
Let me see if I can kick you out. Yep,
Okay,
I can
thank you
kick
for
out.
kicking me off. So the point is, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. The $3,000 was a great incentive. We've also got already a lot of more than the 3,000 in some pro bono benefit work we're getting done and volunteer work, which we can put together as part of the grant application. But to put that project together, I need to know how much to take the invasives out, how much to do the tree work, how much the trees. You can't have volunteers planting trees and shrubs. The cost for all of that, and doing some stormwater mitigation if possible, and at least coming up with a plan. And we can hire a consultant for 2 visits to give us the information we hope to put together in the grant for $400.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So you're asking for admin funds to basically do prep work for an application that you'd want to do for this next cycle. Is that right?
Right. We plan to put the application in by July 31st with a baseline. And then, as you said, you'll work with applicants, and we would get that information as soon as possible to finalize the application.
Okay.
And it's what admin monies are there to help you do surveys and stuff for future CPA projects. Thought it was a good fit.
Great. Thank you.
Seems very
On
worthwhile.
the committee?
Yes.
Oh, no, I said questions. So that, or were you? Was
No
that a-
questions.
No questions? And then, is there a motion to approve using admin, $400 of admin funds?
I make such a motion as reflected in Freddie's presentation.
Second.
Second. I'm gonna go around the horn. Jennifer,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
David, you got moved on me, so you're next.
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and Andrew's a yes. All right.
Thank you.
So thank you, Freddie, for that. Next, library update. I had asked, as everyone can tell, the library looks pretty good. There was a library meeting. I was not able to attend. I think Ryan sent it out to everyone. And I believe you attended. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah.
So I asked Ryan to come tonight. He couldn't make it. He did say the project was done. He also wanted to make sure I referenced that you did attend, and he thanked you for attending. And he did ask when the next CPC meeting where he and the library trustees could come and discuss the PR. But that's where that stands at this point. So knowing that the PR is not, it sounds like they're still waiting for feedback from Mass Historic. And they're gonna reach out to the new town council for assistance with that. You know, I know we were kind of holding off on payments before, but now that the project is done, I don't know how much more we can hold out. It is, you know, still, I have talked with John Parent about, you know, combining the PR for the library and the townhouse to try to consolidate resources on that one. And sounds like he's on board with that. So that's the update I have. Is there more questions? Sorry, I have my family heckling me through the windows down here. Is there an agreement we should go forth and make the final payment? Even though they didn't come in, I don't know, and if there was anything, and
Yep, no other updates other than what you kind of just said. No progress on the preservation restriction from the last update that, you know, they're still trying to figure that out. So yeah, I think you summarized it well.
okay. So is the committee comfortable with making the final payment at least, and we'll still work with them to get the PR?
Is there any sort of process? I mean, like, does anyone go checked or like just John Parent tell us like, yes, they did a good job, like they did what they said they're gonna do? Or like, I guess to say yes to the final payment, I don't know if they've actually done what they said they were gonna do, and it's like the library, you know, but maybe that's that meeting that I know I couldn't attend that one.
Could you ask John Parent to send a written confirmation that all the work has been done as required, and is on receipt of that, you will submit the payable?
Yeah, I can do that.
It's something.
It makes,
Okay,
Makes sense.
sounds good. So that's the library. Anything else for the library? All right, chairman's report, basketball court. So I've reached out to Tim. I haven't heard back from him. Asking if the basketball court, what's going on with that? I don't know, Jennifer, if you have any.
Yeah, we talked about it also last night. Right now we're waiting on DPW for timing. So they're gonna come back and they're gonna, I forget what it's called, but basically like they're gonna seal the seam. So we are gonna see the seam. It's gonna be, I think, a like slightly darker color. But, and then they're supposed to also fix the little dip in it. But so recreation is waiting on DPW for timing, and DPW is in contact with the contractor. So I think it's gonna be a matter of like when they're next in town doing a job, they will swing by and do that also. That's my guess. That's typically how these things get done, but yeah.
Sounds
Rec
good.
is also waiting for an update.
Can I ask a question in addition to the seaming?
Mhm.
There seems to be a big lip that
Yes.
somebody could fall off and break an ankle.
That is work by DPW. It's like that work request has been in like since last fall. So that's additional work that they need to do.
But do they not want to do that until after they fix the basketball court? So I thought that was landscape.
Well, so that might be what they're waiting on right now, because if we put the landscaping in, then they come and drive over it.
So you're not concerned about someone getting hurt, and the fact that you know there's an issue that could be a lawsuit issue?
I don't necessarily have an opinion or a legal there. I mean, the court was opened. So by opening it, the town has, I don't know. I feel like that's a legal issue that I don't want to provide an answer to. I feel like
No, I just meant, should
yeah.
it be open is the question.
Someone from the town opened it, I think is what Jen's saying.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
okay.
like, the town opened it, so they should they knew
Was it
that.
you?
That was well
Okay.
known. Yeah.
Okay. Not my business really, but I just, had seen the
Yeah,
kids running around and
Okay. So if we're good with that one, next is Historical Society. So I know we talked before about what was it, the selectmen wanted, Freddie, for the flag?
The affidavit?
yeah,
Affidavit. So, and we kind of went back and forth because I thought this was a selectman issue. They requested it. Let's see, Michael had signed a letter saying, yeah, we'll give it to you if we go under or whatever. Sent it. I was like, I think the selectman wanted more, but anyhow, Mark Purple asked for it. He got it, I think it was like a month ago. Lisa Braccio just recently looked at it. We talked about it and she's like, Andrew, is this what you were expecting? I was like, well, Lisa, that's not really what we were expecting. This was a request of the selectmen. And she's like, well, I want something more formal. And I was like, oh, that's fine with me because it's what you guys wanted. So I think she talked with Mark Purple today, and I think she's going to reach out to the new town council to work with Michael to make a formal, whatever it is that they were looking for. So I know that's happening. And then I know from the Historical Society MOU that got signed before, Freddie, has that been corrected yet, or is it still, because Michael had signed off on one saying that everything was done, but it wasn't, and then assigned a new one, I think it was.
correct, because there was, he said the project was completed last June 2020 and then submitted an invoice for new work. So you had said that he would need to sign, fix that. And he did re-sign, he did fix it, but we don't have a full copy. The scanned copy he sent was only a portion of the page. And I think you would want to have the full document signed.
Okay.
So if you want to ask for that, I don't know if you need the original. We've always just taken, our scanned one's good enough,
Yeah, I think that,
but just the whole document.
yes. So if you can send that to me and I'll send it out and say, Michael, can you send us the full document? That'd be great. Okay.
Yes, but as soon as I got that, I submitted payment because we didn't want to hold up the payment for
Yeah.
somebody who had already done work. So that's should be all set.
Good. Any other questions on that one? All right, August meeting, question mark. That's if we still need it. At this point, the only thing I could think of that, when are we doing the annual presentation again? Betsy, do you know? Hey, Dorian.
You have 2 meetings set in September. It was in your minutes, I believe.
yeah.
The first one is to go over, to go over the presentation, and the second one was to give it.
I think it's the 23rd.
Okay,
Yeah, the presentation was the 23rd. The next meeting is September 9th. I thought we were skipping the month of August for meetings.
right, but I think we just put it in there to just confirm we don't need it.
Right,
So
it is the 23rd.
since we're able to meet tonight, I think we can hold off on August if everyone's in agreement with that. Take a month off.
Agreed.
Right.
Okay.
Back to the presentation. Did you just skip through that one?
No, I was just finishing. with
Okay,
the
so I
August-
didn't have the agenda on my hand.
Yeah, so next is the annual presentation.
Hi, Annie. I'm sorry, what was the September meeting date?
September 23rd is for the presentation. September 9th is our, to review the applications and finalize the annual forum presentation.
Okay, so CPC on the 9th and the 23rd. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just need to get it in my schedule. Sorry, I am so late. I just got out of my ZBA meeting.
Oh, no problem. So then the annual presentation. Freddie, you wanted to talk about that? I saw you sent it out.
Didn't send the presentation out because it needs a lot of updating. I sent out a
Outline.
outline of what goes into it and to see if you had any, additional. It's pretty well thorough. covered. A couple of new things from past ones that you discussed after the town meeting was having a complete list of all the projects. Because we heard it today that some parts of town haven't had projects. That's, that's some myth, or some people aren't aware of where all the projects are. I think having the complete list during the presentation is beneficial. So that was a new add-in.
Okay. So you're asking for any other feedback if we want to put anything else in the outline that you sent. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. So if we can all get that to you by the, say, a week from today, does that work?
sure. We need some new pictures of some of the projects we've done, so I'll, do that unless people, have others. But it's a pretty substantial amount of work the CPC has reviewed projects and put forth that have been created in town.
Okay. I mean, I can help with some pictures. If we can divvy it up, I'm happy to go to the library or whatever and help take pictures.
Yeah, I think first I'll create a list of all the projects.
Okay.
So that's not happening a week from next week, though. I'm
No,
going
no, no.
away for a
The
bit.
outline. If there's anything else for the outline that we want to
Okay,
presentation, I said by next week.
yeah,
Yeah.
The presentation.
I was
would be-
being funny.
All right. Anything else with that? All right. Signature authorization. I thought this was complete.
It was, but it wasn't.
Was, but it wasn't.
So everybody or a majority needs to sign the signature. I thought it was just Andrew and Benjamin and that I could just have them sign it. So it's actually wants everyone on the committee to sign. So I'm going to print it out and leave it. I spoke with Vanessa today. We can leave it at the townhouse with, I just went blank. She took Carol's
Oh,
chair.
oh,
The receptionist area, we'll
Okay.
leave a copy there. Is her name? I feel bad because I know her. Dorianne, do you know who took over the reception area? At the town?
At the town hall?
Carol retired.
Yeah,
Any-
Katie Berry.
Katie Berry, thank
sitting
you.
there. Yeah.
Katie Berry will be in her area, and I will also make sure that town clerk's office knows where it is in a folder for people to go up and sign during townhouse hours.
okay.
And then,
When do you think that would be up there?
well, I think it will be up there sometime tomorrow.
Okay,
I'll send an email out as soon as it's there.
that'd be great.
I have a crew of students coming to help me do some planting at the library, so we're very excited to be breaking ground for the first time in an upland area that's not underwater.
Great, thank you for that. One other update I had for everyone, and when I was talking with Lisa Braccio, the other thing she said that the selectmen are starting to talk about is possibly replacing one of the seats on the CPC that hasn't been filled in years, which is the it's not the affordable house, it's the housing authority seat.
You can't do that.
That's what I was wondering if they could.
Legally, it's a requirement. Some things are required under the legislation.
Okay, but and that seat is required?
It was. So when I told you a little bit of the history at the beginning, when we reached out to all the groups, that was a seat that was required, but they weren't that interested in participating with us getting this passed. And so we knew when we created, what I didn't tell you is that to create the committee was also that had to go to town meeting with a warrant article, and we wrote that, and you have 5 seats that have to be on there. And so we added others because we wanted to make it a robust committee. You can only have up to 9, and we put Shopsy as a a designated seat because we did want to make sure there was someone from housing interest, community housing, sitting on the committee in case affordable housing, the housing authority wasn't as robustly interested. I can check with Stuart if they can, they may be able to have, but I don't think they may be able to have somebody represent them that's not a board member, but I'm not sure.
Okay,
But that's written into the legislation.
so I'll get back to Lisa on that piece, but I just want everyone to be aware that that conversation was happening, so you weren't hearing it for the first time at someone else's meeting and be like, what? So just want to update everyone on that. So with that said, I think we got through everything. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Best meeting ever.
Thanks, everyone. There's been a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor? I'll go around as I see everyone on my screen. Jennifer,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Dorian,
Absolutely, yes.
Andrew is a yes. So thank you again, Betsy, Freddie, Jennifer, thanks for everything, running the meeting and the suggestion that we don't do this at the a hybrid where it was. I'm glad we found that out early and it wasn't a debacle. So thanks, I appreciate it.
Thanks for your efforts.
Hi, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Good meeting.
So-
You too.
Bye.